What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Iron Culture presented by Mass. It is me, Eric Helms. I am not joined by the good Dr. Eric Trexler, but even better than that, I am joined by two phenomenal natural bodybuilders. I have Christine Reinhart and Sarah Oase on today with me, who recently finished a fabulous season at WNBF Worlds, where I got to finally meet them both in person for the first time, even though I've been following their journeys and their impressive transformations, not only this season, but over the last few years, as they have been really coming into their own and just kicking major booty. We're going to have a cool discussion today, not only about their competitive seasons, their own journeys in the sport, but also their experience in this category, which has shrunk and contracted, unfortunately, over the years. For those who don't know, when I first got into bodybuilding, it was the mid-2000s. I remember my very first show where I guest judged, which is the process in the WNBF where you see how closely you match the panel to see if your judging is good enough to be a judge. The figure division had just come out, and prior to that, in the mid-2000s, there was literally only bodybuilding on both the men and the women's side, except for a few other divisions like fitness, which we'll discuss. But since then, we've had the explosion of divisions or categories, as I should say, and we've seen shifting levels of participation. But they've been championing their category, and we're going to talk more about that and hopefully show more people how awesome the bodybuilding category is. But without further ado, let me just please ask everyone before we get into this conversation to support the show, because without your support, the show don't happen. Daddy got to pay his bills. So please give us a subscribe, a like, a 5-star rating. Now, of course, be honest with your rating, but I would just ask you that if it's not 5 stars, are you really being honest? Look in the mirror. Ask, are you the type of person who wants to give a rating that you haven't really thought through yet? And then just think about it more. And then once the answer is 5 stars, then you can give that rating. If not, just keep reflecting. Reflection and gratitude is a good thing. Additionally, if you want to become a super supporter of the show, it is Iron Culture presented by Mass. And I am a nerd, but I'm also a nerd with a mortgage. So I would be greatly appreciative if you consider checking out massresearchreview.com. And if you really want to understand the latest science as it applies to fitness, health, bodybuilding, powerlifting, nutrition, all of that, check it out, because it is myself along with the rest of the crew dropping that on a monthly basis, and we would more than appreciate your support, and I know that you will take something away from it. And finally, if you need any lifting gear, our friends over at Elite FTS, Dave Tate & Co., they have amazing equipment, highest quality stuff, and you can use our code Mass Research Review, that's MRR10, to get 10% off any of their stuff at checkout. So, with that done, with the corporate sponsors appeased, with capitalism made sure that it lives on in the intro of Iron Culture at the very least, I would love to welcome Christine and Sarah. Christine, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and first, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you so much, Eric, for the invite. It was kind of a pinch me moment when you sent me the message and asked me to be a guest on the show. So I'm a big fan. I've been listening for a long time. So yes, my name's Christine. I am a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a healthcare practitioner. My husband and I own a small multidisciplinary clinic. And yeah, I've been lifting for a really long time. I've been in the gym lifting weights in some capacity since 1998. Yes, I'm a master's athlete, so I'm 46 years old. So yeah, I've dabbled in resistance training of all kinds for quite some time, and had my first competitive season in bodybuilding in 2022, where I competed as a figure athlete, and then made the jump to women's bodybuilding this season, 2025. So that's kind of a very basic background, but I'm sure we'll get into more details.
Well, we are going to get into it, and you're anything but basic, Christine. I have been inspired by your progress. If anyone doesn't follow you on Instagram, which of course we'll share you guys' links towards the end of the show, they really should, because seeing what you went from being in the figure division to now the bodybuilding division. And then in the last couple of years, how you've continually leveled up. And just your attitude of, I'm here to put in the work. This is under construction. And you can tell that you are pushing yourself to the best of your capacity, but it doesn't need to be a production or a moral high ground, but it is just awesome to see. And as someone who is trying to compete at a level that I'm not sure I'm capable of, watching you do the same and succeed and bring a package to the stage where I'm like, oh, damn, is awesome. So you got absolutely peeled this season, and you've also put on a tremendous amount of muscle. I see you dedicated and putting in the work in the off season. Talk to me a little bit about your journey, because I also want to. I don't want to dive too deep before I also give Sarah the opportunity to give her background. But what brought you to the sport, and what made you jump from figure to bodybuilding, and was that always the plan?
Yeah, so I've always just loved lifting. I got in the gym when I started university, and I just got hooked and never left. So at a certain point, there was a trainer at my university gym who I was at the foreground of CrossFit. So like when it first came out, he was one of the very first coaches, and he would just throw workouts up on the board. He'd throw a wad up there, and I would do CrossFit workouts as his guinea pig. And I was like, this is cool. This is really hard. Did that for a few years. Then I went to chiropractic school, and it was hard to still keep doing that, but I still kept lifting, just not super intensely. When I got finished the bulk of my schooling, I started dabbling in powerlifting a little bit. I'm a pretty tiny human, relatively speaking, so powerlifting was really fun to just work on the big three. I never competed, but I really enjoyed it. And just always kept busy in the gym. And then COVID hit. I was like training at home in my basement. And when the gyms opened up again, just one of the trainers at my gym says, why don't you try bodybuilding? So this is end of 2020. And I remember the very first day was August 18th, 2020. And this trainer, he actually told me about Lane Norton. And so I came across Lane, and I started on Lane's nutrition app, Carbon Diet Coach. And I started using that for all my nutrition programming. And I did my very first bulk. And this guy at the gym wrote me a program, and I started like intentionally putting on weight. And this was the first time I'd done that. And I was like, this is cool. I'm seeing some really good changes. So once I started doing that, I found 3MJ. I found Steve on Revive Stronger. I started consuming everything I could about bodybuilding. I was like, this is just, when I go into something, I go all in. So I was reading things. And so I'm like, Berto says we should practice dieting. So I did my own practice prep, and I did an 18 or 20 week cut on my own, just to see what that was like to diet for a really long time. And I'm like, that looks pretty cool. So I just did a little photo shoot at my gym. I'm like, okay, we're going to run this back, and we're going to do it again. So I did another building phase in 2022. And then I'm like, okay, I'll do another practice prep in 2022. I got 16 weeks into it. And then I actually won a contest that paid for me to do a local show. It was just a draw. It's not that I was great or anything, but they said they'll pay all of the expenses for a local show. So I'm like, okay, I guess mock prep is going to turn into a real prep. And I looked at the different categories. I went to a show to finally see one in person. And you guys, it was you, Brad Loomis, and Andrea actually answered one of my questions on your 200th episode of 3MJ podcast. And I said, how do I know if I should compete? What category do I pick? And you guys just said, just go for it and pick the one that speaks to you. And so I was like, figure. I know I'm small, but bikini is just not for me. It's just not suited to my personality. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try figure. I went to that show in 2022, fall 2022. It was a 32-week prep. I did most of it on my own, except for the end. I didn't have a good coach, but I found James Johnson, who is now my current coach, and we've been together for over 3 years, and he actually helped me land the plane. We worked together the last 4 weeks of my prep, and I had an amazing experience, and I was hooked. I did novice figure, and I won first. So I did open figure. I got first, which earned me a figure pro card in that federation. It was the NPAA, which used to be the amateur affiliate to the IPE here in Canada. I did masters, I got first, and then I was able to do the pro show the same day and I got first. And I went in with zero expectations. I had no idea how I would do, and it went great. And then after that show day, I told James, I said, I will give you as much time as you need to build me as big as I need to be to never have to wear the heels again, because I hated the heels. And so he said, okay, it's going to be women's physique or bodybuilding. And I said, yeah, you build me as long as we need to, and we'll prep when you say the words. So I really love the posing of women's bodybuilding. I found out that I'm pretty good at getting lean. I can get pretty shredded. That's not too hard for me. It's just the size thing. So that'll always be an issue for me. I am a smaller human. So that's kind of how it all evolved. I know that's a lot of talking.
No, you're going to do a lot more of that talking. So I hope you got used to it. That's amazing. It's an honor that we play a small role in that journey. And a big shout out to James, Natty News Daily, and also him and all of his clients. There's a lot of really cool athletes out in Canada, and I'm glad to have some of you on. And it's just cool to see. I think what's really cool is you said you've been lifting since college, so your 20s, right, Christine?
Yeah. I as soon as I always played sports throughout junior high school, and then of course you leave and you go to post-secondary, and it's like, well, what do I do? So I played some soccer and floor hockey intramurals, but I found the gym. Me and a friend, we started lifting, and I would just follow magazine routines and lift. And then the one trainer was like, let's do some CrossFit stuff, and I was really good at it. And so yeah, it was just I've had that base of muscle. I've been in the gym consistently anywhere from 4 to 7 days a week since 1998. So
see, this is awesome to see, because I would say probably the most striking visual changes that I've seen you do are in the last few years. And even though, you probably built the majority of your base of muscle before that, I think let's just say everyone watching, none of us are in our 20s or 30s. We don't need, we probably will share how old we are, but all of us are not spring chickens, and we're all making good gains at this stage in our career. And I think that can be incredibly inspiring to a lot of people who sometimes get messages that it can be too late, or I'm postmenopausal. I'm just trying to not lose muscle and bone at this stage, or what hope is there for me? Or I tell you what, even on the men's side now, the messaging that we get. You start in a modern era, you hit 30 and it's like, by the way, did you know that you have low testosterone? It's the cause of any and all depression, sadness you have. And here's my affiliate code for a Gray Zone TRT clinic. And I get questions from people like, hey, I just hit 30. Can I still build muscle? And I'm like, get out of here. So there is a tremendous amount of encouragement that I hope you will get from both of these awesome athletes. But no, Christine, that's incredible. We'll talk more about your specific season after we get a little bit of introduction from Sarah. Podium finisher at Worlds, brought an incredible physique to the stage this year, but you have been bringing it for a bit now. Welcome to Iron Culture, and please tell us a bit more about yourself as well.
Oh my gosh, I'm honored too. This is crazy. I actually was really excited just to see you at Worlds and have a conversation, because I've followed you for quite a while. And same thing with Christine. What I really loved about 3DMJ this year is that many of you were prepping at the same time. So your struggles, I felt, were like exactly like mine. So it was really neat to just talk to you and be a part of that. So Worlds was pretty crazy this year, with seeing all these, like, the Flash people. I had to get autographs and things like that. But yeah, I'm Sarah Oase. I'm 48. I have 2 teenage boys who are 15 and 14. My oldest is almost 16. I'm taking him driving today. So that's kind of where I'm at. I am a full-time social worker for child welfare. I've been doing it for 28 years. I have been an athlete my entire life. I have 2 sisters who also were very much the same way. I've been a runner. So I've spent high school, I did some gymnastics because I enjoyed the floor team, which kind of plays into why I love the flex dance and bodybuilding so much. There is an art to that I love. So just, I've always kind of lifted weights on and off. But my focus really most of my years, especially when my kids were young, was running. Like it was easy. I could get out the door and run and come home and have babies. And so I spent more of my time with them when they were a little bit younger. Now their dad gets to step in and kick their butts out the door and get them to school. And so we have a really good kind of system with our children. And so that we've kind of found that balance, I think, because most of my training is done very early in the morning and my running would be the same way. So I ran marathons up until 2015. I qualified for the Boston Marathon, so I got to do that in 2015. And that was kind of my last significant race. I did some Spartan races, the half marathon Spartans, and that's when I kind of was like into starting to get even more into weights, because I really loved kind of the CrossFit classes, like Christine was saying. I loved climbing the ropes, jumping around, just like anything that could get my heart going. And I'm super competitive. So I raced to win, and I love winning. So just super competitive, I think. And so I've always had some sort of goals and something for me throughout like all these years. So I really got into lifting for I think for just a stress relief, because work was pretty intense. I was starting to feel some aches and pains from marathons. I did some trail running, but it was still pretty difficult. So started lifting, and then same thing that Christine said, I had a trainer, coach, owner of the gym who said, "Hey, have you ever thought about competing?" And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. And then he showed me a picture of, I think it was the figure winner at Olympia. And I'm like, and I've talked about this before, I'm like, the muscles are really cool, but I'm not so sure about the face or the voice, because there was very much, some extra things added into that physique. And I was like, but you go on stage and you get naked and these people judge your body. So it was very awkward. And for quite a while, it was weird. But I did my first show and it was figure. With the heels, I did master's figure for Ironman, which was, I think, a natural show at the time. None of us were tested. They just claimed it was NPC natural show. And I think I got third in masters, but I was able to see the women's physique. My very first show, I saw the women's physique and their routine. And it was terrifying for me to see that. But at the same time, I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to create the routine. And so
What year?
I competed in this was 2016, I think.
Okay.
So from 2016, and I was, I think, 39, 40. I started competing around that time. So I started late. I didn't compete when I was younger. I've always been active and an athlete, but this wasn't what I did when I was younger. So that's when I started. And I think it was like, 38, 39. Anyways, so my second show that year, I switched to women's physique and I just made up a routine and I wanted to do the flex dancing. And that's really why I did it. It wasn't so much for the mandatories. I just enjoyed you had mentioned in one of your shows about the art of this sport. And that's, I think, what drew me to it more than anything. I love lifting weights, but I'm like, if I can lift weights and dance and flex to music that I love and entertain people. So for me, that was kind of what I found attractive about the sport, because I loved lifting in the gym. That was the easy part. So it's been hard for me a little bit to not want to compete all the time, because I love that part of it. And so it's not like getting shredded. Like it's hard for me to get shredded. It's hard for me to get stage ready. But what I really love is that part. And so being okay with not competing every year has been tough. So I competed in the NPC until around 2018, 2020, and I had heard about natural federations, but I did not even know what a natural federation was. NPC was it. I had talk about going to nationals, but I also was very aware that trying to compete in women's physique at a national level against people who were using substances, I probably wasn't going to win. and it would have been a uphill battle for me. So when the WNBF promoters, one of them had reached out to me and said, "Can you come and just sit in and listen?" And so I went to one of their seminars, and my first show was the Northwest Royal, and then I went and did the Washington State Natural in 2021, got my pro card, and then I competed at Worlds in 2021 and got third. And at that point at Worlds, I think we had a class of like 10 or 11 girls. There were quite a few.
Yeah.
So that was my first, and I haven't gone back. I mean, I've done an NPC show since then, but I really have a love for just being a natural athlete. I want my boys to see that, your mom has earned everything she's done in running. You work hard for what you do. And that's what we talk about at home. Like, my oldest is a baseball player, and my youngest is more of an art guy, but he loves basketball, but he doesn't want to practice. And I'm like, and that's okay. Just where do you sit in this? And so, you got to work for what you get. And, I've spent years, older years, but, working really hard for the things that I love, and it's paid off, I'm really happy about where my journey has led me. And I've been through many coaches. Christine is my teammate. We have we call him the unicorn wizard coach. I feel like I am now connected with a team that is very kind of, I say normal. Like, we all have children. We have busy lives. Like, I'm not 19 and get to spend all my hours in a gym. I've got other responsibilities. And so what I really enjoy about this team is that we really can relate that way. And our coach, from what I haven't experienced before, it's just really nice to feel like he works with me as a team. Like, he doesn't tell me what to do. We make decisions together. And I think he respects my experience as much as I respect his knowledge. And I'm just really grateful that I got to work with him this year. And because it was really, like, even if I didn't win, my physique this year was the best I've ever seen it. And I can't complain, right, about that. So.
No, I hear that internal competitor there who's like, I was my best. Could I have placed better? Of course, and it's fine. But yeah, I hear that. So let's talk a bit more about your journey into bodybuilding. And I first off, I just want to say, I love that there's something for everyone. Maybe not for everyone. In fact, probably for almost no one. But for those of us who do decide to compete in physique sport, I think there are multiple ways to connect with it and express yourself. Like on paper, Trex and I look very, very similar in terms of our academic pursuits, our history with powerlifting and bodybuilding, but our motivations to do them couldn't be more different. For him, it's almost like getting to be a living science experiment, which I guess it's not true. It's not, they couldn't be more different, because I do love that aspect of it, of the physiology. But I love the game. I love the history. I love the art of it. I used to be a breakdancer when I was young, and similarly, the flex dance, as you call it, love it. Appeals to me as well. The artistry in the craft, and it is also, a competition that's very similar to, say, like a breakdance battle. And those things kind of make a lot of sense to me. But I know a lot of other competitors would be like, I'd be fine if they didn't have a routine. Can we just get up there and just get compared once, chuck me in a DEXA scan, and then let me know if I got a trophy, and you can mail it to me. I don't want to put on tanner. I don't want to shave. That stuff is not interesting. I just want to lift weights and then compete. Fair enough. But I think it's great that there are things that can appeal to each of us. So that's cool. I'm glad you spoke to that. Now let's put some respect on y'all's names. Talk to me, Sarah, about the progress you've seen as a competitor. Some of your placing, some of the shows you've done leading up to this season. What was some of the your most proud accomplishments? And then let's start actually going through 2025, which was, I would say, I don't want to put words in either one of your mouths, probably a pretty big breakout year for both of you. And I'd love just to hear about that. And I think it's a pretty impressive season you both had.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess leading up to 25, I've had, like I said, a few coaches. This year was my fourth time at Worlds. I have been in the top 5 for Worlds every single time I've competed. However, the competition has been, I mean, I compete at Worlds because I know there are going to be women showing up there, that you will have your guaranteed competition. You're not going to be standing on a stage with one other person. And so for me, the reason I've done Worlds so many times is really because that's one of the best shows where I'm going to get talent show up. And last year, 2024, was just significant. I placed 5th, and it was for the first time that I was like, holy crap, like I might not be able to do my flex dance because I got 5th. And I'm like, wow, I've just never placed 5th. And so it was hard for me. And I also my physique wasn't where it needed to be. And so there's been many years leading up to this year where I know I could have been better. And I think that is a hard thing to leave. I think I've done fine for myself. I've had many wins in the NPC last year. You know, I won women's physique at the Sasquatch. And I got to do Mr. America last year, which kind of exposed me to other federations. You know, I haven't stuck with the WNBF. I've done ANBF, I've done PNBA, NPC, I really just want to go where there's going to be competition. And unfortunately, there's not one federation that can guarantee me a lineup. And you have to qualify for all these big shows like Worlds. So I have to do a qualifier. So I'm spending money to do a qualifier where I'm going to be with 1 or 2 other women just to get to Worlds. So, and that's a bigger conversation we'll have down the road. But yeah, I mean, Worlds is the biggest state, one of the biggest stages to get competition. So, so last year was really frustrating. And right before Worlds last year, I could have brought myself in to Worlds, but I decided I just needed to do something different and talk to a different coach. And I also own very much my part in how my preps have gone. I take control when I get worried that things aren't going the right way. If my body wasn't changing the way it needed to change, I have lived my life with a lot of cardio, with endurance training. And so that's where I would go to. I'm like, oh, this isn't working. I need to make this up. And I would do things behind the scenes. So I accept that and I own that. So it's not totally my coaches. Like I did some of that, but just trying to find that body that I've been waiting for. And so it's been like 10 years. And so I look back on it and I'm like, God, all these years, and I finally get to see what I've been waiting to see. And it said so much about, I'm 48 years old and I look the best I've ever looked when I could follow my coach's rules, when I felt respected as an athlete with my coach and we could come up with a game plan together. It was the first time I was totally honest with him about, hey, I struggled here. Stress is high. This is what's going on, and very open with him. And I did what I was supposed to do. So I think my part and his together just made for a successful year this year. And like I said, I mean, I look at my physique when I started and I just look little. I have genetic back and shoulders. I have that love, right? But so much bigger. And I want to look big. I don't want to look little. I want to carry big on stage. And I think that's where the confidence in what you want to own and who you are on stage really reflects that. Because if I don't win because I'm too big or I'm not as lean, I will tell you what, like I walked out there this year and I'm like, I'm a beast. And that's how I want people to see me. Like I'm not trying to look like anybody else. I'm not trying to do everybody else's thing. I, of course, will try and get into what the judging criteria is. But bodybuilding is about having more muscularity. And, it takes years to get here. So anyways, I'm taking up a lot of time, but so all those little things I think added up into this year being successful and the balance, like my life is not all bodybuilding. I have to balance that with my family, with the things so when prep's over, I was like, thank you, baby Jesus. I can get back to some normalcy. But it's nice to have a team that has the same kind of situation that I do, right? Like family's really important, and don't get too lost and caught up in it, but I love it. My heart, I'm a bodybuilder 100%, and I love it so much. And I just wish like younger girls knew how amazing it was to show who you are on stage and not just wear the heels, but there's so much of yourself that you can show out there. So,
Sarah, I love it. And we're going to have to get you two Canadians to be a little less polite and realize that this is your platform to speak. And there's no such thing as talking too much when you're the people I'm asking to come on to talk. But I'll coax it out of you. That's my role here. So first off, you competed in I believe it was the ANBF Washington State this year, and you won that show. And that had, I think, 9 or 10 competitors in it? Am I wrong?
No. So that was just one. So the only show I really wanted to do this year was
the show's wrong. The Monster Mash. That's right. Thank you.
The Monster Mash is notorious. I mean, Nancy Andrews, she is the bodybuilder queen, right? So when I got ready this year, it really was about me just proving to myself that I could come in how I wanted to come in. So that's how it started. I wasn't even going to do Worlds. I was like, I want to do Monster Mash. This is about women's bodybuilding. That's going to be my big show. And so, yeah, so I did state.
You guys did the ANBF and the Monster Mash and Worlds together? Those are the 3 shows you guys did together this year, or were there more?
We did Calgary. WNBF Calgary.
That's right.
We did the Monster Mash, ANBF Monster Mash, and then we did Worlds.
Okay.
And part of my reason for doing Worlds was Christine. I got to watch Christine get her pro card in Calgary, and I almost start crying just thinking about it, because that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It was pretty neat. And so, yeah, so going to Worlds was more like I did it too because she was going, and we were a team, and we got to do this together. And there's something really magical about being on stage together. So
I will step in and give you some space just to feel your feels, because this is something that I think is a beautiful part of the camaraderie among bodybuilders generally. But I will say, having had athletes on the other side of the fence who are my friends, and having done one back in the day NPC show that was quite big. It was a national qualifier in California. Jay Cutler was there, hundreds of competitors. That there was not the same type of camaraderie among everyone. There were certain pockets for sure, don't get me wrong, but it was a little more of a disconnecting kind of cutthroat environment to some degree. Not to the, I don't want to overpaint it. It's like, oh, it's totally different over there. It's not, but really big shows, and where people are trying to qualify, and maybe something about the personalities who are drawn to the enhanced side of the sport. On average, I find it feels less like a community, and it's less like, hey, the judges can sort it out, but we're all here and we've shared the same experience. Let's really connect backstage. But I just had Heider Souza and Adele Martins on. I think listeners, you will listen to them last week. They could be the biggest rivals in the world, and they've battled it out so many times, but they celebrate it. And I getting to experience the stage with Brad, Jeff, and Berto over the years, it's some of the greatest joys I've had in my life. And getting to have this finally be the first season since 2007 where I got to be on the same stage at the same time as Berto was a true gift. So I very much understand where you're coming from, and especially when you have someone who is pushing so hard, and each person has their own individual struggles, and when they're able to achieve something that helps them self-realize their own potential and their capabilities, and to derive a certain level of self-affirmation from it, I think is a transformative thing. It's beautiful, and I get your tears completely, because it's so awesome to be there. And I love that you're supporting Christine in her journey. And that was something that there's that picture that you guys did. I think it must have been the Monster Mash, where you're hitting a back double bicep, you're hitting a front double bicep. You both look incredible on stage. And it's like, it's like the dynamic duo, So it was really cool to see, and that was one of the reasons where I was like, you know what, let's get you both on, because I think there's a shared journey to talk about there. But you're right. Like, I think this might be a good time to transition a bit to the challenge of being in women's bodybuilding, because even if you were to look at, say, the biggest shows that are out there, WNBF Worlds, the Yorton Cup, the Mr. America, and the PNBA Olympia, INBA Olympia, in the pro women's bodybuilding division, or physique, if that's the closest thing they have to it.
Right.
Sometimes at the highest level, we're looking at 5 or 6 athletes, maybe 10. If the show is doing a really good job of recruiting and promoting, and there's a good kind of funnel to it, you might have 5 in each weight category, and you might have 3 if there is even a weight category. And don't get me wrong, there are no slouches. Like, placing 5th at last year's Worlds, I mean, Amore is just ridiculous. I remember
Wonderful.
it's actually been quite cool, because in 2023, when Natalie Hayes, at her young age, won the amateur title, and then came over and won the pro title the next day, and had a pretty good field on both days doing so, and then also, I think she won the Yorton Cup, she won the Mr. America, and I want to say she placed 2nd at the Olympia. I was like, yo, she's going to be dominant. No one's going to touch her for years. And you know what? The next year I was like, oh my God, Amor Fernandez. I went to Spain. She came out on stage, and I looked across the panel like, what is happening? Like, who is this person? Kind of coming out of the woodworks too. And probably the most impressive natural female bodybuilder I've ever seen. And I got to see her in person. But this issue, it's regional too. So she actually had to compete when she was in Spain. I think it was either the figure or the fit body division. There was not an opportunity to get a pro card in women's bodybuilding. And then, so she had to do it at Worlds, and then boom, dominates, and in very clear fashion won that title, and actually, beat Natalie. So, among others, there are some, while the numbers are sometimes small in these shows, the talent is there. And that's why I want to showcase that talent, because you guys are incredibly inspiring, which I think is something that maybe, like, I know for me, you brought up Lane Norton earlier, Christine. I'm a very different person than Lane, but I don't know that I would be here doing what I do without Lane, because there's no clear pathway if we roll back the clock 20 years ago that says, hey, do you want to be a coach and science communicator for strength and physique sport? Here's the degree program, the career path. You apply here, you do this. It's like, what do I do? I'm a bodybuilder. I'm a personal trainer. I'm really interested in this. I kind of need some type of template. I need a representation of what my future could be, so that I can think of the open possibilities for the future and how I can express myself. So, Sarah, you sharing that, seeing the flex dance, Christine, you getting to see the female bodybuilders and, tell your coach, hey, like, what do I need to do to take the heels off? Having these examples is important. And, like, I'm jumping around a bit too here as well, but Sarah, I think something to connect with what you said, you are trying to be big. You want to dominate the stage. You want to be seen as a beast, a freak, just like me as a bodybuilder.
Yep.
And I think I have mixed feelings, let's put it this way, when someone, approaches me and they're trying to do, advocacy for women to start lifting weights, and they go like, well, one of the big myths is that you might look like a man or get too big. And, let women know that that's not a risk. And on one hand, I'm like, well, like, if that is a barrier for someone, then I wanted to let them know that's probably not possible. But also, like, muscle is not a masculine trait. Like, we're all born with muscle. We all move by contracting our tissues. You guys are not floating around on clouds of estrogen. Like, we move our bodies with muscle. It is a gender-free tissue. And it is not inherently male to be muscular, in my opinion. And yes, on average, men have a little more. But listen, if you want to look as big as you possibly can be, like, please do. And I think there are more women than maybe even they realize who would enjoy trying to get as big, as ripped, and as muscular as they can be. And that's 100% fine. And there should be a place for that. And I think normalizing that, or at least not even necessarily normalizing it, because nothing about bodybuilding is normal, but letting people know that that is a viable option. It's kind of cool. It's a different experience, and there's less you have to worry about from a category, criteria, division perspective. It's like, yo, who came in the biggest, the most shredded? We have a lot of poses for you to display what you have. And it's not a T-walk. It's not an I-walk. It's come out there, put on some music, and show us how freaky you can be. And I think there's a certain level of rawness to the bodybuilding division that I've always appreciated. And, you know, this is just probably a little smidgen of what you guys have experienced as female bodybuilders. But me seeing the rise of the classic division, like, on paper, I should like it and I should go for it, right? Like, it's supposedly a throwback to the old school. I love the history. It's about posing, and it's about symmetry, which some people have told me, hey, your physique is probably better suited towards it. But I just don't get as motivated about it. They take a few poses away from me, and it is a little bit like it's different between different divisions. I'm actively involved in the WNBF's criteria for it, so I'm trying to do a good job with it. And judging criteria is a very important thing, but it doesn't speak to me the same way that just the bodybuilding division is, and that could be an age thing, I don't know. But I think you guys are doing a great job advocating for a division that's fallen out of favor. It's been kind of wavering a bit. We've seen some amazing champions, but what we don't have is kind of those participation levels. And it is annoying, and it's frustrating, and it's kind of an unfortunate thing to where you're at risk of entering a show, putting in all this effort, and standing alone on stage and getting a participation medal, even when you're an amazing athlete or not. So it's not just about giving you the competitive opportunity, but giving you the actual experience of being a competitive bodybuilder rather than just someone who is doing kind of a physique display. So that's from the outside what I see, but I would love to hear both of you guys talk a bit more about that. You know, Sarah, and Christine, feel free to jump in where you want. What do you think is, how much do you think seeing others compete in that category and promoting that category does as far as opening up the possibilities in the minds and making more women feel welcome to actually try that out?
Well, I want to let Christine, pop in here too. But I think unless you're going to take a concerted effort to put it as a promoter to say we're going to highlight this division, we have an extra, prize amount or like something to bring, like there has to be an effort around it. And there just isn't. I mean, if you look at all of the federations, the majority of the focus is on bikini, on figure. It's not, there's not even a mention of women's bodybuilding in many of the shows. I mean, just as it, I go in, I can, sign up and do women's bodybuilding. But like, I would start calling different shows and saying like, is there anybody actually going to show up to this one? Because you're right. I mean, you hit so many branches just in that conversation right there. I mean, so many ways we can go. I mean, there has to be an effort to make it highlighted again. I mean, we are in bodybuilding. That means you have muscle. And so I'm just not sure how it was. And I think even in the NPC, like you don't see a lot of women bodybuilders there, especially in those shows because you have to be probably enhanced. But, in natural bodybuilding, like you don't have to be huge. You can have, if you are lean, you can get lean and just enjoy the art of it. And because every young girl that I talk to at the gym is like, I want to do what you want to do. When I finish shows, the bikini competitors are coming over to me, touching my shoulders, touching my back, going, I want to do what you're doing. And so I don't understand, And it's always, I'm not big enough.
Mm.
And for me, like, I want to be big. Like, I have been gifted in some respects with a bigger, like, I just have a lot of lean muscle mass. And so I have that and I have to own that. I don't get to do figure. I don't get to do bikini. I, I wouldn't do well there, right? Like, so this is where I have just, this is what I own. And so I've told a lot of women, like, if that's what you want to do and you have passion for that, you know, sign up and step on stage and just see how you feel. The second I did that, I was like, I will never do figure again.
Mm.
This is where I need to be. And I love that. And so if you're going to do the sport, like you said, like, you want to have this love for it because it's really expensive. It's super time consuming. But I just get a lot of feedback after shows and throughout my career, I say career, but my time doing this, and I want to be just like you. And it's like, well, why aren't girls trying this?
Mm.
I just don't understand. And so I think it needs to be promoted. And so what was so great about Monster Mash is there was a very specific, they were very specifically highlighting women's bodybuilding. And Nancy Anders was behind that. And just to see us, you know, put more of that out there, I think it needs to happen because there's just, you have how many classes of bikini competitors, and then you walk up on Worlds and you've got 6 on stage.
Yeah. So
You don't have to be big. You don't have to look a certain way. You just have to say, I'm going to try this and try it. And then I don't know how many times they've come off and said, I want to do that, you know?
Yeah. So the Monster Mash, how many were there? Was that 11 or 10?
There were 9. Wasn't there 9, Christine? Yep. And they were
solid.
They were really good looking athletes. This wasn't like, I was shocked. I'm like, holy crap, you know, like, we're going to do this. And we got into that line and it's like, we all looked at each other down the line and you could feel just the excitement to step out there, like being able to be together. I think I cried probably 5 times just because I was like, we never get this many women on stage. And then to do, like, when we're all done with our mandatories and, you know, the pose downs and just listening to music, the music was so long. I was like, I'm running out of poses. It was so great. And I'm like doing mandatories and literally like losing my shit when I'm doing mandatories because I'm like, this is the most emotional. This is like going back to 2021 Worlds where we had like 12 girls. Like, it's been how many years? I can't even get in line with this many girls again. And that's what I was afraid of when I was done with that. I talked to Christine and many of the girls. I'm like, I'm just so afraid this won't happen again.
Yeah.
Because it should. And the empowerment and how they feel and how beautiful they are. It's just not like any other division. And I just think people are missing out by not, if you want to do it, I think trying it because it's pretty phenomenal, like how close we are because we are a small group. And I know bodybuilders all over the world. So it's like we connect and we'll find each other, but we need more for sure.
Yeah. The camaraderie, the sisterhood, the brotherhood of bodybuilding when you've been in the game for a bit, there's people you would never meet if it weren't for the iron, which I think is a beautiful thing. And I love that you guys have fostered this international sisterhood of badass bodybuilders. So the Monster Mash, those pictures were incredible. I would say this year that show was probably as competitive as any world class show, and the fact that you guys both did it.
Absolutely.
So Christine, you turned pro at Calgary, and then you competed as a pro with Sarah. You guys, I think, got to compete together, like right after getting your pro card. I know that must have been a really cool connecting experience. And then your next show was the Monster Mash as a pro. Is that right? So that was like your big coming out party where you got to be against 8 other top level female competitors. What were those 2 experiences like for you? And also, what are then all of your thoughts on kind of the waxing and waning of this category and why you do it, why you choose it, and just kind of giving us more of your thoughts on this conversation.
Yeah, so just with the first show, my intention was to be better than 2022. Of course, as bodybuilders, you always want to improve on your previous package. So my goal was to be bigger, to be leaner, to have better posing. So I drilled my posing like daily for probably 2 years, because going from figure and exclusively quarter turns, I had a lot to learn. But yes, as we've kind of alluded to throughout this conversation, one of my extrinsic goals was I'd really like to earn a women's bodybuilding pro card in the WNBF. What show can I go to where I'm even going to get a crack at that? Where will there be enough women? And traditionally, Calgary is the place to do that. And fortunately, it's only a 2-hour drive from where I live. So it was the perfect show to do. It's my home turf. I know everybody. I volunteered at that show for years. I have really good connections with the local people there. So that was a very special show for me to do. And for me to duke it out and earn my pro card there was incredible. Having Sarah there, having my posing coach Lauren there, it was an incredible moment for me. And I didn't know if that would ever happen, because I am not a large human. I am a tiny human. And I still remember thinking about, well, what hand have I been dealt? I can get lean.
Yep.
I'm pretty symmetrical. I've got good posing. I can work on my stage presence. Those are the things that I have. I don't have a lot of mass. When I got on stage in 2022, I was 102 pounds. And when I stepped on stage in Calgary, I was about 108, 109, which I was like, wow. And I wasn't peeled, which was hard for perfectly peeled yet. But, we knew we couldn't be 100% for that show. So that was a bit hard for me. But to see that I could earn my pro card, have that much more mass, I thought that was really cool. I thought I'm an older female. I'm a tinier human, but I brought a really good package that was able to stack up and earn that pro card. So that was really, it brought me a lot of joy, but also a lot of relief, because I was like, this is my shot. Like, I don't know what other amateur show I could even fit into my season to even have another opportunity to try and earn that pro card. So it was awesome to get it there on home turf with Sarah there, and then get to step on stage with her the next day was incredible. Like, we had talked about it for months. What if I earn my pro card there? And the next day we get to just flex together and have the best time. And we did. And so that was really amazing. So yeah, to go off to Monster Mash, that was a big deal for me. Once I found out who some of the competitors were, like, we all look, you say you don't, but you look to see who's coming. We had 2 of the top 3 Yorton Cup finishers from 2025. Yeah. So that was a big deal. A couple of the ladies had been competing in women's bodybuilding for a really long time. Some of them had finished in top 3 at Worlds at previous seasons. So for me to come in there as the new kid on the block, it was a little bit intimidating, but my attitude going into that show was try hard, have fun, and let's just find out. It would kill me to know that I didn't give it a go and give myself a chance to show up and just see where I stack up. That's what I wanted to do. And so I went there with Sarah. Our coach was there, which was incredible. It's the first time that he's been at one of my shows, which was a big deal for me. So yeah, just and we had another teammate there competing in the show in a different category. So just having that team together, to be on stage with that caliber of women, to feel the chemistry that we had backstage, it was just so supportive and collaborative, and we were all just so genuinely happy to be there. And then to finish third, and that, like, it couldn't have got any better. It was amazing.
So that sounds like an incredible experience, and one that I think is, I'll speak for myself here, because I think I do have a bit of an insight into this, because I've been at shows where there haven't been enough to turn pro, and I've won them, which is a frustrating experience in some ways. And then I've also earned a pro qualification in a show that was small, that had a lower standard, which was also kind of not a great experience. And it's kind of there's no good outcome when you have a low participation show for a given category, and the promoter's in a rough spot. So I won't share names or the name of the federation, but I had a competitor who had an amazing first season, who I was coaching. I'm very close to, great guy. And he did so well. Everything from the actual execution of the prep to handling it, to the perspective, to focusing on the journey. And this is someone who didn't even care about placing at all for the first season, because they wanted to just get the experience and live in the moment and see how they handled it and kind of, enter the brotherhood, right? But in this very final show that they did, the specific federation's rules were, as long as there was 3 in the class, you could get a pro card, which is kind of too few in my opinion. They didn't care if there were novice or debut crossovers among that class, so long as in the open there's at least 3. And he was in a class of, when you get 4, there's no guarantee that there's going to be any really standout athletes, but he was the best on that day, got his pro card and won. And it was almost, you'd think that'd be a really, really cool, positive experience, but not going into it with any expectations and coming away and going, oh, now I'm a pro. Now he's like, hold on, am I worthy of that? So now, I get my coaching report and I want to respond to him. And what I wanted to just be a purely positive experience. I almost wish there'd been no pro card. There'd been no placings. It'd just been him getting to experience, bringing his best, getting a good comparison, executing on game day, and getting that first timers, bitten by the bug kind of love that all of us who stick with it get. And it was clouded by, I feel like I didn't earn this pro card. I don't want to be seen as a pro, but I should be kind to myself. Maybe I have earned it. What does this mean? And I think I experienced that in 2011 when I won a relatively small show in INBA and I got PNBA qualified. And then I experienced the flip side of it, of trying to hunt for my pro card, allowing myself to focus on my extrinsic goals a bit because I had the maturity of having a lot of foundation in my internal goals, and entering shows where I'm like, I would like to give myself the opportunity to pro card. And I asked the promoter and they're like, well, we'll see, they don't want to say no, because then you don't sign up and it's definitely not going to happen. But you come into the show and there's 5 people, or you come to the show and there's 3. And you need, at least in modern times in WBF, you need 8 in the open division. In men's bodybuilding, I think you need 5 in women's because of the unfortunately low participation that we're currently dealing with. So I'm so glad that you got to not only get the pro card and knowing that you weren't at 100%, still knowing that you're good enough for it, and then getting the opportunity to get on stage in a highly competitive lineup of 9 pros and to actually place as you did. That must have been an incredibly gratifying experience. So talk to me a little bit more about what it meant to you and what it was like to be in that lineup and then come away with some hardware.
Yeah, it was a big deal to me because I kind of had a similar experience when I did do figure in 2022. When, they awarded me a figure pro card, but it was me and one other person. And I was like, yeah, I was definitely the leanest person there, but could I even compete in a pro lineup? I don't know. I don't think I could. I ran my own prep for the majority of that prep, and I was way over dieted. I wasn't full. I was shredded, but compared to everybody, but it didn't feel like I really earned a proper pro card, if that makes sense. Yeah. So a similar fashion, I didn't really celebrate it. I was just like, I did good. It was my first time prepping. Great. So yeah, to actually go through a proper off season with James, to have him prep me all the way through. And this prep was 46 weeks. We went very low and slow because as a smaller person, we could not afford to lose even a gram of muscle mass, because I'm already fighting against the big girls like Sarah. Really, she's got 20 pounds on me.
Yep.
So, and that always sits in the back of my mind. Like, some of these girls have 15, 20 pounds on me. So can I do anything? Am I going to stack up? Am I going to look like I fit in? And so that was very much a concern for me. And so I think that having that low and slow approach with James, we dieted down about another 4 pounds from Calgary to come into Monster Mash. It was the best I'd ever looked at that point. So that was awesome. And I just knew I had worked really hard on my posing. This was the best I'd ever looked. And it was just reframing everything. I work a lot on mindset. And so not being nervous, but just being excited to have the opportunity and curious. Let's just find out. Get up there, do your best, and let's just find out. Like I said earlier already, I would have been very regretful if I didn't just give myself a shot to see. I want that data. I'm very much a scientist too. Like I have a PhD in neuroscience. I've published research too. I've got that background of academia. So I love tinkering with the variables. I want to find out. I want the data. Even if I fell flat on my face, well, what did we do wrong? What are we going to fix for next time? So we figured out some things about my peak. We figured out some things about how I need to be backstage for pumping up. I need more sodium. Like we found out all of these little pieces of information that contribute to how I can bring my best package. Of course, there are still more posing improvements that I can make. So I'm just really glad that I took the leap and I went out east. And yeah, like Sarah said, we got to meet some new people, make some connections with some East Coast people because we're both from the West Coast. So just to be in front of different judges, be in a different federation, meet some other athletes, like the whole thing was just such a valuable experience just as a competitor, as someone who loves and has such a strong passion for women's bodybuilding, to build connections, like, and all of it led to a lot of good data collection for taking that final step going to Worlds this year.
Amazing. Yeah, you guys. Oh man, I Christine, you're in so many ways. I don't want to like own like take make it seem like I'm taking ownership of your experience, but I relate to you. I feel like I relate to you so much, and I love watching your journey. As someone who has just kind of had to put one foot in front of the other, see what happens, believe, and fight for it, and then manifest those changes and be like, oh shit, this happened. Like, I don't think people get when you talk about being, I think in your first show, you're 5 pounds lighter than when you came in, and not even in your peeled peak condition in the next one, but probably as lean with more muscle, comparing, first season figure to being on stage as a bodybuilder when you won your pro card. Putting on 5 pounds, people were shocked by with me doing that, but that's 5 pounds on someone who goes from 175 to 180. That's a much smaller percent. You added 5% to your body, like that is a lot. And the visual striking difference was noteworthy. You brought, you say you're a small human. You don't present on stage as small by any means. And I think while there's certainly other bodybuilders who are bigger, I mean, this gal right here, Sarah's pretty friggin' huge. You bring a razor shredded condition, and that was something that I've been loving seeing in the women's category in the last few years, is that the conditioning standard has gone up. And it's so cool to see multiple women on stage hitting a back double bicep with top to bottom striated glutes. That was something that I did not see even 5 or 6, 7 years ago. It was rare. And like for example, I did not anticipate that Natalie Hayes would improve upon her condition so notably from 23 and 24. But when I saw her on stage at Worlds, I was like, oh, damn. Like, she's not just bringing the same impressive package. She's as lean as the dudes. Like this is sick. And she wasn't the only one, the entire top 5 were incredibly conditioned at Worlds. And that was something that struck me when I got to see some of the pictures at the Monster Mash, is just how the depth of the lineup. So you getting to test your mettle against some of the best in the world and be a podium finisher, I think that's the type of thing where when you're competing in relatively small shows and you kind of just eke out your pro card, the validation you get from being against the best and doing well, for me it was a shock, and that was this season. Like I got, the hair on my chinny chin chin pro card when I got it in Australia. I was the second guy for the 2 pro cards, the optional second pro card that they gave out of 10. And, I've been around the world judging. And when you go to places where bodybuilding is really, really popular, men's bodybuilding, I should say, there's no women's bodybuilding in Asia. As much as, here's the one downside about Asia, guys, because I've been singing the praises of WNBF Taiwan and talking about how it is in India, but there's very few women Culturally, it is not really a thing to be big over there. It's quite rare. There are some countries like Hong Kong or a few others that have a bit more of a Western influence where that's a bit more of an option. But there is pretty much just the bikini division if you do some of these shows in Asia, and they're well populated, and the show is huge. But the people try to be muscular. It's men's physique, it's bodybuilding, it's classic, and there's a tremendous number of guys. So that's something that I think, like, as much as we'd like to see a change in North America, it's even a bigger problem in some other areas. Like I mentioned, Amor couldn't even find that category to compete in Spain. But anyway, I digress. We can't fix the world, the three of us, in this 2-hour conversation at most. But I think we can start it. Anyway, what I'm saying is, though, that when I get to be there as a judge and I see quite literally 100 people compete for 3 pro cards, and I think of myself as I got, 2 pro cards out of 10, that's like 20% of us versus 3%. Am I worthy? And getting the opportunity to find out and go like, oh, wow, like I'm actually competing and I'm beating some of these people who did go through that crucible. And I'm up against people, like you guys said, top 3 finishers at a world-class show, prior world champions like you were at Worlds, and I'm in the mix with them and I compare well. That experience can be incredibly validating. So it was so cool, Christine, to watch you have this season, to see you come into your own, to see you at your peak. What was your final stage weight like when you were in that razor shredded condition? Where you felt you were your best? Where were you at?
Mm-hmm. So I actually was about the same stage weight at Monster Mash and Worlds, but as soon as we finished Mash, the first week, James increased my calories by 100. That's 100 calories per week. And then the next week after, we added another 100. So I started eating up and my weight was stable for those, because it was 3 weeks between Mash and Worlds, but I just kept getting sharper and sharper. And I was not feeling as good. My sleep was starting to crash a little bit, having a bit of the digestive issues, which I'm sure the 3 of us could have a whole podcast about digestion. But yeah, I was just getting sharper and sharper, and the food was coming up. So I on Worlds, I was, about 105, 106 in that range. But the day before the show, I'd done an afternoon update set of pictures for James, and Sarah was in the room, and our good friend Dan, DC Hyper Strength from Natty News Daily, they were in the room and they're like, dude, your glutes, like what is that? And I was, you're just so tired, and I'd done so many progress updates, like I hardly was even looking at the pictures. I'd just take them, send them to James, and we looked at my glutes and we're like, wow, like I didn't even know that was back there. So it was really exciting just to be eating up and be there with my friends and knowing that I brought my absolute best. And as Jeff Albert says, I met my current potential. I feel like I truly met my current potential, the best that I could be for that show. And it was such a good feeling. And I know I can still get better. That's the fit. Like we've collected all this data. We know, where my strong points are. We know where I need to grow. Like, surprisingly, I'm lower body dominant. I thought I was the tiny human with small legs, but my legs look pretty big. So, it's so much fun to feel like you met your potential. You got to see what was actually there, which this is what Sarah had been looking for 10 years. Yes. She wanted to bring forth her very best package and see what was there, and she finally got to see it. And now we just get to go back to the lab and build and make it better for next time.
Well, and I think it's things like, too, I think what was really cool about having this coach and where I was sitting is that I trusted him enough. So when he would say things like, because I had obsessed about certain things after being in it for so long, like my scale isn't moving, like all the things that are so frustrating. And he's like, it's not about the scale, it's about the look. What does your body look like? And I'm like, okay, I'm trusting you, but this is like horrifying. And sure enough, like I did get to the lowest weight I'd been. I mean, I think my lowest weight was like 118 when I first started, and I weighed in at 126, I think, for Worlds. But 123 was the lowest that I'd been in years. So at Calgary, I was the lowest weight, but it was weird because I'm like, I still look big, but I'm leaner than I've ever seen myself. And so it was just so much of my thought process about bodybuilding was so ingrained that and I've talked about this, like literally having to pretend like I didn't know anything about bodybuilding. So that's how I went at this with this coach and with this prep, is like, I really had to just pretend like I had let go, and this is my first time. And that's what I did. And I stuck with it for the majority. Every now and then I rode my Peloton at night and he caught me. But outside of that, it was a game changer. And like, they're looking at how shredded you can get. And I think that's the other thing, like, people get nervous about bodybuilding because quite literally, you're right. Like, the standards have gone up, and like, that's the other thing I hear all the time is, I don't know how you can get that lean. I'm starving. I'm a bikini or figure competitor. This is like, that's a whole different level. So I think there's some fear in trying to, step on a bodybuilding stage and not be as lean as you can, because that's my weakness. Hers is muscle. We are like yin and yang. We both have our own. We love bodybuilding, but we go in very different paths to get to our end result, right? So she would get all this food, and I'm ready to stab our coach because he's like, I don't understand. You're so big. You have so much muscle, but you just can't eat as much. And I'm like, and she's getting fed like all this food. I mean, it's just crazy. It just, so we're all different. And so it was great as having a coach that could see that and be like, this is what we're doing for you. This is why we're doing it this way for you, and explaining it. And then again, like, teaming, instead of just saying, well, this is what you're going to do. I'm not going to tell you why, but this is how we're going to get you where you need to get. So so many different levels of a different experience getting ready for this season. And the sleep was on point. My stress was really bad. I don't know if you saw that post he did about like the bloat, where I had such a horrible week at work. And I carry my stress with water. I always have. And I like woke up one day looking one way and the other. I'm like, I have Monster Mash in a week. And he figured it out, and I trusted him. He fed me more things that I would go opposite. I'm like, no, we need to do more cardio. And we came into Monster Mash, I think, my best look. But he may say something different, but we're also different in how we respond to things. And I was getting messages like, well, you ate all this shit, or, I'm like, no. And it does happen, and it's crazy. And stress on your body does weird things. So just some miracles that happen.
No, Sarah, I had a very, very similar experience that was, travel induced stress, and just on a day-to-day basis, seeing my body go from looking ready to 6 weeks out. And and then, I gained in 1 week. I went from 80.1 to 83, so that for the North Americans, that's almost 7 pounds in a single week, while I'm in a deficit, knowing, like what my numbers are. And that can happen. And the solution is not what the bodybuilder's internal driven perspective is, well, I just got to diet harder, get this off. Like, eating up, chilling out, trying to sleep, focusing less on your body. For me, taking antihistamine, and all of those things. It's something that if you haven't seen it before as a coach, it can also be quite confronting, and you may not necessarily know how to handle it. So you guys did a fantastic job, turning that around. And having been in a very similar spot, Sarah, when I was able to peak well at Taiwan after all that, and also deciding that I needed to go to an emergency room and smashing my head in the middle of the night, and just, not having the on paper ideal lead up into that show, the fact that I presented well on stage, it gave me a certain level of trust and confidence in myself, and also my coaching relationship with Berto and Brian, that I know you probably were able to forge with James. And, you're talking about the collaboration. I'm the same way. I'm a good soldier, but I also need to understand my orders, I guess. And, so Christine, I'm also, I'm data driven. I'm a scientist. I'm really good at trusting and putting faith in people and being an athlete, but I can't turn off my analytical brain, my need to see, logic and things. And I think when you have a coaching relationship where you fully understand one another's needs like that, and you could state them, it is such an important thing even when you're relatively experienced, when you've done as many seasons as I have, you're on your 20th show, that doubt is always there. And it's a question of how much effort do I have to put into managing it? And when I have someone in my corner, I'm just like, listen, I know that I'm only partially sane right now. I can get through this. I can do the right thing, but it's going to take a lot of willpower and effort. But if I can just trust that Berto is also going to come up with something that is at least as good or better, and he knows my body, he knows my mind, and I'm just going to send him the pictures, I'm going to do the thing, I'm going to share with him how I'm feeling, and he's going to give me that space and reflect back to me. And it's just my job to report what I see and provide my intuition, and the best thing will come of that. I know all that, but now I really know all that because I was like, shit, I was 7 pounds up and bleeding out of my skull like a few days ago. And now, hey, I just had the best showing of my life. So I know that experience it's so important. And I think what's cool is that for very different reasons, the two of you are coming into your own, and you have really bright futures. Like Sarah, I when I look at your physique kind of as like a judge and as a fan of the sport, I've thought for a couple of years, like, man, like if she can just improve a few things and come in diced, she's world champ material, or at least in the mix. And we saw that, So like I mentioned earlier, the Monster Mash this year especially was a world-class level show for women's bodybuilding, and you won it. So, like, I think that speaks to your potential as an athlete. You looked incredible. Like when you were fully dialed and peaked on stage, your quads, the sartorius, and also the glutes that you have that are so well developed, they had some striations in them as well. You brought the heat, and I was like, God damn, like that is a sick physique. So, you guys have such different physiques, but also both of them, I think, are not at their peak. And I think you guys did, like you mentioned, Christine, that feeling of it being your best this season and fulfilling your potential. There's no better feeling than that, in my opinion. Being able to look back and be like, there's a certain satisfaction and a weight that comes off, and it's like, I couldn't have, what else could I have done, And now, like you said, back to the lab, and we'll do it again. So to see that you guys both got to taste that, but in different ways with different journeys is really cool. So yeah, I just want to give you guys both a huge commendation on your performance. So Monster Mash was incredible. Worlds, you guys both did really well. Christine, 5th place, Sarah 3rd, and this was a no joke lineup. You had former world champs in there, and it was just a very, very stacked lineup there, even though it was a slightly smaller division compared to the Monster Mash. Talk to us about that experience.
Christine, you go first.
Yeah, there was a little bit of stress going into show day, just with appointments, like hair and makeup stuff. So I didn't quite feel as calm and settled going on stage as I would have liked to. Sometimes those logistical things get to you, but that's also something I need to learn how to navigate as a competitor. This Worlds was only my 5th show ever, so still learning some of the things to be wary of. Yes, I controlled all my controllables, but there's some other things that I needed to get in line as a little bit better. So I was a little bit frazzled getting on stage. I'm not gonna cloud that, but I felt like I was very grateful to be there. I wanted to have a little bit more comparison, if I'm being honest. I was kind of thrown onto the ends right away. I would have liked to have been compared and put beside other competitors a little bit more frequently. at Calgary when I earned my pro card and at Monster Mash, they worked me specifically very hard. I'm the new kid on the block, so judges haven't seen me yet. So they worked me really hard in those first 2 shows that I did. And I was moved all over. I was put beside everybody and I fought like mad with my posing to earn my spot. I felt like I really earned my place. I felt like I didn't get to duke it out as much as I would have liked to at Worlds and get a few more comparisons between other individuals, but that's okay. That will come with time. I know the judges are doing the best they can, and I still had a great time being up there. I was just really grateful. Like, my goal was to finish top 5. I really wanted to be able to do my posing routine at Worlds, because I knew only the top 5 got to do it. So that was important to me. I got that opportunity. And just to be a part of that global community was just so valuable, and getting to meet some of the other ladies within the women's bodybuilding category, super valuable. So yeah, Worlds there was a lot of lessons that I learned and took away from that to, implement for future competitive endeavors. Because like I said, I haven't done a lot of shows yet, so I still got to learn how to keep my nerves in check and that kind of thing too. So yeah, it was a great experience. And again, just so happy that I got to be up there with Sarah.
Yeah, you guys had just a sick class of 6. Like Natalie Hayes, I mentioned already, won friggin' everything at some point. Marie Seton, she had just won the Masters title just earlier that day, and she is a kind of perennial top female natural bodybuilder over the last couple of years, also coming in diced. Sarah, like I mentioned, just won the Monster Mash and has won many titles and competed at the highest level. Zoa Liming Watts, she is a former WNBF world champ, I believe.
She's great.
Yep. Christine, like that's awesome. And, like getting more comparisons, always a good thing. And you will get that opportunity moving forward. And I think as you improve, you're going to be in the mix at the highest level, which is so cool. Also, Jennifer Counts, she has won, I want to say it might have been 2017 IPE World Championship. So you legitimately had 3 world champions in that division. And everyone who was not a world champion was a no-joke competitor. So, yeah, that was a joy to watch the depth of competition in that category, and you guys both did fantastically well. But yeah, no slouches among that crew. So it's a tough thing, when you get tight placings in a small group of elite competitors, because the difference sometimes between 5th and 2nd is a roll of the dice, a change in lighting, someone peaking slightly better. But it feels very different to be, I was in 2nd, I'm in 5th, you're never going to touch me. But that stuff changes, like at the WNBF Mayhem, Berto placed 2nd, and the guy beat him was Eddie Saldana, who won the overall. And then he went to Worlds, and in the middleweight division, I think there was 13th, and I think he placed either 8th or 9th,
Yeah.
And Sergio placed 2nd, who he beat at the Mayhem. And both of them improved from the Mayhem. Both of them felt they did better. And it wasn't like Sergio improved way more than Alberto. It was just that Sergio needed to be just a little bit tighter, a little better peaked, and then he was really able to step it up. And Berto improved, but the people who were in that lineup, I mean, we're talking hair on my chin separation level of competitiveness. So it's a tough thing in our sport that is subjective and so dependent upon who shows up. You really have to be able to self-assess. How did I do relative to me and relative to my prior competitions? And then I, of course, am going to put some weight into the outcome, but I have to anchor my satisfaction, my drive, my appreciation primarily into my own self-assessment and try to be that objective about it. Or it can really become a resentment building, sour taste in your mouth kind of relationship with the sport that can become quite bipolar. And I've seen that be just not sustainable or enjoyable. And I think it takes maturity. And I think one thing that I love about both of you guys is you're both interested in competing. Like, you both want a good look. You want you have extrinsic goals. You want to compete and you do want to win. And that's fine, but you also are mature humans. And I think I look back on my own career where I was just as competitive, but far less mature. And I'm almost glad that I wasn't good, back in the mid 2000s, because I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready to be in those types of lineups where this is a roll of the dice would put you in fifth. And I'm also really glad that not only was I not that good, that social media really wasn't around at that time, because I would have been acting a fool if I didn't do as well as I felt justified in doing on social media. And I think you guys are both fantastic sportswomen and professionals in a true sense, because there are things that don't go the way we want. We have, things that could be improved. There are, our sport of natural bodybuilding is very mom and pop, very old school. It's growing, and the participation rates are growing faster than, in my opinion, the capability of many of the people who are running the sport. And I have a ton of gratitude and understanding and respect for what they've built and what they're trying to do, and that they are trying to adapt, and that there is major competition from bigger entities with more money. So it is by no means a easy thing to improve, but it does need to improve. And I think this is one area where I think there is a lot of opportunity to improve. And I just want to thank you both for taking the time to share your experiences and also hopefully try to recruit some of those bikini chicks who are out there looking at your delts like, oh, I want that. It's like, you can have that. You can have that,
It does take time, right? Like when you talk about the timing, there's a reason I started doing this when I was around 40. Like there's a reason why I was running at a period of time in my life and why I was doing things. I think things happen for the right reason at the right time. I would have never thought that I could be this good starting so late. And then I watched Jeff and I'm like, dude, I'm going to be bigger than him. That's my goal.
Let's go.
He's doing it, right? Like he's doing it. And, I think that's what's so wonderful about this sport is you have to love doing it every day. And I walked away from Worlds just like my posing was the best I'd ever had. I felt comfortable. My transitions were great. My dance was probably the best I'd ever done. And it's like, that's all that mattered, and I got to compete against some of the best in the world. And it's like, who gets to say that, So it's pretty awesome. But yeah, more girls for sure. If they could just feel how great it is out there to flex on other people, let's
flex on them.
There's definitely.
That's right. I love it. Yeah, that's so well said. And, I think there is a lot of, self-perceived barriers that people from different backgrounds and, categories of humans will put on themselves, whether it's age, whether it's gender. And I think it's really good just to see people prove that it's possible, because it can ignite something in someone who maybe didn't think that was the case. When I saw Joe Foresi was on the you guys might not know who that is, but as one of the competitors in my division, I was like, oh shit, Joe Foresi's still competing, because he was a bodybuilder who I was following in the mid 2000s, and then in the mid 2000s, I want to say he was like late 30s. And then I come to see he wins the 50 plus men's, and I'm like, okay, yeah. I think he was 56 on stage with us, and he plays like 8th or 9th, and he looked just as big as he did back in the day, and bringing the conditioning, bringing the heat. Like I'm not, I would let him state whether he thought it was his best or not. But this is a guy who's a competitive pro natural bodybuilder at the highest level, quite literally 20 years ago, still doing it. And at the very least, very comparable to how he was. And I think the light heavies were pretty damn competitive class this year, and in the mix. I'm in a dogfight with him, getting bounced around, and to have that on stage, I think is something that hopefully just takes some of these self-imposed barriers off people and lets them know, like, well, why not me, right? And in that same lineup was, I think, Ido Marko. I think he's an Israeli bodybuilder. He was 21, so you get to see the potential of some people who are, gifted at this, and others who maybe they have a strong potential or not, but if they stay in the game, they stay healthy and they stay hungry, motivated, and they have the right perspective that I think you guys embody, you got a 20, 30-year peak in the game that you can keep doing this and find new ways to keep improving and tweaking. So I love it. I think there's a lot to talk about. I'm curious about both of your guys' future plans, and I also just want to give you the space if there's anything more that you want to talk about in terms of advocating for female bodybuilding. If there are things that you guys think need to be done, or places, or websites or anything that you want to encourage people to go to, or topics that you think need to be explored more, I just want to give you guys the floor. So let's first start with future plans. So Christine, Sarah, we'll start with you, Sarah. What is your future competitions after 2025 and future plans? Are you taking an off season, or are we getting back on stage?
No. I competed last season and this season, and it's a lot, and my family's ready to kill me. So, and I need a break. Like, I just want to enjoy lifting again. And Christine and I have talked about this. Like, at the end of prep, it's just everything is really rough in the gym. Everything's difficult, and I just really need to enjoy it again. So there's definitely areas my weaknesses I need to work on, specifically my legs. I'm hoping for like a 3-leg day week. We'll see what he says, but need to get them, get those hammies up and quads bigger. So I'll be doing that. I would like to compete internationally when I'm 50. So that would give me a year off, and then I could come back again because I think like, for me and not anybody else, like, I have mass. So, my struggle is getting really shredded. And so I think if I give myself a year and then kind of see what is going on, that I'll be ready to compete. But my focus will be like, where are the bodybuilders? And I will go where they're at. It doesn't matter what federation. I'm not tied to a federation. I just want to compete with the best. So that I'll be keeping my eyes out for that. In this off season, I am teaming with Suzette Montero, who is also a WNBF pro. I met her in 2021 at the world stage, and we saw each other again at Monster Mash. And so we have put together an Instagram page for women's bodybuilding, because there's some thoughts going around about having just a specific bodybuilding show for women, and just trying to bring our girls together and unite. And so I did create an Instagram page. I am sending it out. So if you can send it out, I think it's what is it, Christine? What did we call it again? Women's Bodybuilding United or something.
Yeah.
Worst promoters ever. You don't even know your own Instagram page on this podcast.
I do. It's like a week old,
right? I mean, I'm a mom. I have other things happening, but that's what I want to do in off season too. I usually have something going on in off season. I went and I got my NASM certification one year, and I just kind of have to have some hands in the game. I'll help out at the Washington State Natural, the WNBF this year, and hopefully just Worlds maybe in Calgary. I love Calgary, so I'll have to go visit the Canadians. And
okay, it is Women's Bodybuilding United, Iron Culture listeners. Make sure to go give them a follow on Instagram. That is all one word, spelled normally, Women's Bodybuilding United. We'll put it in the show notes. Make sure to give it a follow. Fierce women, natural big muscle, bigger presence, united in iron, and unapologetic for our division. We rise as one, and the world will hear us. Cross swords, fire emoji, let's go. So, yeah, that's something I think, honestly, that's the way it starts with things like this, is where you get people around it who are within the sport, who care, who are passionate, and never underestimate the power of a small group of passionate people with skin in the game. Way back in the day, 3DMJ, actually, we played around with the idea once, like, Men's Physique came out, the bikini came out, and they were really, really popular. We're like, we should just do like a 3DMJ bodybuilding only show, just women's bodybuilding, men's bodybuilding, and nothing else. And then we talked to promoters, and we learned what went into it, and we saw how they were stressed, and we went, we'll just coach. But no, I love it. I think it's a great attitude, and I think the more shine we can get on the category, And the more we can get connections between the athletes, if the athletes all send a group email to a promoter saying, hey, there's 10 of us, we want to do your show because it works with our dates and our geographical location. What can you do for us, and can you help us promote it? And maybe you give us a group discount or something like that, or make sure you got the prize money. They'll come to the party, because some of this is a self-created problem. A promoter sees, I don't get people in this category, I'm not going to promote the category, and then people don't know the category exists, and it's kind of this negative and positive feedback loop potential. So I love it. The more I guess I'm just encouraging, and I want to support you guys to get connected, because I think that's the type of thing where you do start to get a really good circuit, and you guys get to have those battles that you deserve. So anyway, I'll shut up now, though. But carry on.
No, that was all. I think I'm good. I just wanted to make sure people knew about that. And yeah, so we're hoping to connect with other women and do that. So
I love it. Well, I can't wait for people to not only engage with that, but also to see you fall back in love with hard training and be able to train the way you want, and hopefully bring that improved package with those bigger quads and hammies. If people do want to follow you, Sarah, and follow your journey, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram at Wazoo99, and I have a Facebook page, but that's more of my family stuff. So Instagram is kind of, if you're looking, that's where I'll be.
Perfect. So make sure you guys follow Women's Bodybuilding United as well as Wazoo99 if you want to follow along with an awesome athlete's just incredible journey. Honestly, huge fan of both your guys' physiques. And Christine, your future, it's bright. You're a new pro. You've realized that you can hang with the best, and it's only looking up from here. So what's in store for you?
Yeah, it's moving on to climb the next mountain, right? So my growth goals are like the opposite of Sarah's. James already took away a leg day from me. I need a wider back and bigger chest. So we're going some upper emphasis. So I'm already very sore, more volume than I've ever done for chest. So it's really fun. I'm such a creature of habit and a robot, so I usually get mad at him for changing my programming, but I think this is going to be amazing. I feel like I have the potential for some newbie gains because I've never trained my chest this much, and I've always loved training back, so I know I'll just throw everything into getting that back volume in. So I'm excited for my new split, and hopefully I can grow enough so that I can join my teammate there maybe in 2027 to compete again, and we can take on some international shows. I think it would be like an amazing experience to travel and do those shows. And but we got to see, I got to make the improvements, because you can't show up looking the same. So I'm excited to do that. Wherever we can find the ladies, that's where we're gonna go. So it's gonna be good, and I'm sure I will be kind of a quiet assistant in the background with the women's bodybuilding recruitment efforts. And I just try and get out when I'm not competing to shows and volunteer. I'm quite a big proponent of WNBF Canada. The community here in Canada is amazing. I'm super excited that Worlds will be here next year in Calgary. So I hope you guys can come. I'd love to see you in person again. But yeah, I will be helping Sarah as much as I can to promote women's bodybuilding, encourage women to get big, to grow, to eat the food. I mean, I hate to say it, but like women from our generation, we were told to be small and not to eat. And I did that for a lot of years. So I just want to tell women it's not scary. It's good to give yourself the fuel, to put in the time to grow. And even if you don't think you're big enough, just still give it a shot. You don't know. Like I said, I play the cards that I have. I got some symmetry. So it's all about your proportions. You don't have to be an absolutely large person in the absolute sense in terms of body weight. You know, you can still hold your own and just give it a go, especially if that speaks to your personality. Like women's bodybuilding, it's me to my core, everything about it. I just love it. And so, just excited about training, making improvements, and just seeing how much we can improve this category moving forward.
And I honestly really do think the future is bright, not only for women's bodybuilding, but natural bodybuilding as a whole. When I was talking to Hyder and Dow, there was one pro show in Europe for them to do. now there's SNBF, Germany, UK Supernaturals, Spain, Italy, and there's also growth in Asia, which is, a little closer for them, depending upon what part of Europe they're from, to go to Dubai, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, and, it's not on the immediate horizon, but I'm working even in Oceania to hopefully maybe get a pro show out here. So we're going to have a true international pro circuit. And then, honestly, it's just a matter of, when it comes to pro shows, the pros getting together, contacting the promoter and saying, "Hey, we all want to come do this show. What do you think?" And you guys will be able to do that. And I think to see a good, thriving pro circuit with women's bodybuilding being represented internationally will be really good. I talked earlier about how it's an uphill battle to change the game in a place like Asia. But imagine, WNBF Taiwan, just put it out there. On Saturday, it's all the amateurs and, nary a single female bodybuilder, because it's mostly the local competitors from the broader Asia. And then on day 2, what are these 10 amazing women doing, these pros? I think that's the type of thing that'll, in a very positive way, break the brains of many of the people in that region and open up possibilities, and you'll start to see some things. So, you guys, I have a heartwarming vision of you guys running around the world shredded, showing everybody what's what. And hopefully you guys get that opportunity. I know you will both be working so hard in the off season to improve, and maybe I'll even be joining you guys in 2027, because I have Christine, like I said, I don't want to co-opt your experience, but I feel like in many ways we have a very, very similar trajectory. So I'll be following you and taking inspiration into my own training as I, summit the peak of even more volume that I've been doing previously, and trying to find a way to move forward. But I want to thank you both sincerely for being the amazing humans you are. It's exciting to see WNBF Worlds go international for the first time in 37 years of it going on. Believe it or not, folks, it's been like the quote unquote World Series of baseball, that's always in the U.S. And then sometimes we have a couple Canadian teams, but the WNBF is truly becoming international. It is going outside of the U.S., starting with Canada, who's been amazing. The WNBF Canada team is just a great group of people who are very positive and moving in the right direction. And I know that in the coming years, it'll go even further than that and travel around the world. And the future is bright, not only for natural bodybuilding, but because of people like you, for women's bodybuilding. So thank you both for being on Iron Culture. And I really hope that this translates into some increased participation, curiosity, and women willing just to get out there and be like, you know what, I'm going to do a proper bulk. And even if they are in your guys' generation, like you said, what you were told, like if you've never bulked, if you've never actually tried to put on size and intentionally gain weight while doing hard resistance training, I don't care if you're 45 or 55, you're going to be surprised. You will put on some muscle. Yep. Your body has been waiting for decades for you to let it do this. I've seen it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've seen it time and time again as a trainer. And as just someone who's, it's obviously always been more acceptable for us dudes to get big and try to grow muscle, and bodies work the same way. So enough of that. I will say thank you one final time to you both. Make sure to give them both a follow. Christine, your Instagram is what for people to give you a follow if they want to follow your journey?
So it's just, I'm on Instagram. I probably overshare. So if you want to follow along, I'd be really grateful. C Reinhart. So just C for Christine. And then my last name, Reinhart, 5, the number 5, on Instagram. So pretty easy to find. Always willing to answer questions if people are curious. And thank you for the opportunity, Eric. It was really an honor and a privilege to be here and be able to share my story and be here with my teammates and just pump up women's bodybuilding.
Get jacked. That's how it is. Get jacked.
Let's go. No, you guys are both amazing ambassadors for the sport and especially for your category. I want to thank you. And I also want to thank the dear listener for hanging around till this point. And if you want to help this episode get more shine and hopefully help us, spread this message, please give us a subscribe, give us a thumbs up, give us that 5-star rating. And of course, if you want to support the show more broadly, definitely check out massresearchreview.com. And again, another shout out to Elite FTS. Use the code MRR10. And thank you all for listening along. Big thanks to Sarah and Christine. Give them a follow on Instagram. Also follow we're going to say it again because they didn't even promote their own thing, Women's Bodybuilding United on Instagram. That should be in the show notes. Follow that on Instagram as that grows. And make sure to tune in every week to Iron Culture, because this is just the second of several interviews we're going to be doing with some of the WNBF Pro champions. So you're going to hear some more stories from the trenches next week, and I will see you then on Iron Culture.